Okay, what's happening today? Well, here's a strategy that is relevant to folks, especially now, because we've seen some market highs. We just hit a record high here on the S&P, what, a week or so ago? 2 weeks? Something like that?
A little while back, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, here we go again. It's like the 95th record high in the last 5 years, whatever it is. Yeah, 8 years. I don't know. Couldn't be, because we didn't really go back to the high until like 2000. When did the S&P recovered, but it took till like what, 2012? Something like that? I don't remember.
Probably.
It took some time. But anyway, we've seen a bunch of record highs over the last 5-6 years, we'll call it. And this means likely that your bucket number 3 or your equity portfolio is somewhat higher than you had, you know, maybe counted on all those years ago. And you should be maybe looking at this on a year-by-year basis at least. Well, when your quote-unquote profits, even though they're only on paper, are up, does it make sense to maybe take some of those profits off the table and save them for when profits aren't so good? Professor Plum, this is a technique called value averaging, and as I think I said last week when we teased this topic, it goes against every
human instinct,
human
nature
instinct that we have. The rational brain says, yes, you should be doing this. Yes, yes, yes. The emotional side, which often takes over in investing, says, why in the world would I ever consider trimming off something that's been growing like a weed over the last 7 or 8 years?
Well, because we want to trim the weeds back. No, when is the best time to sell something? When you have a very good profit. Now, does that mean that it's going to not go up further and you could have had a better profit? Well, it could. It could keep going up, but it could also go down. Remember, a gain on paper, John talked about paper gains. Paper gains are wonderful, but they can turn around and go the other way before you lock in the real gain. You can't spend paper gains. You can't protect paper gains. Paper gains mean that I bought it at X and it's currently showing as Y, and Y being a higher number, but until I actually sell it, I don't know what that Y is going to be. And the Y could be higher or lower tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Could be higher or lower next month. So when should we be looking at potentially selling something? When we have better than expected profits.
Do you think there are people out there, I'm sure you probably have seen it, although the people you work with, you may have already discussed this concept of value averaging, but there have to be a lot of people out there who have maybe done this bucket strategy more on their own, and they look and they see that they are, you know how we say your house rich? They are bucket 3 rich. In other words, it's far above where they had intended it to be at this particular point in time.
Not intended, but expected. And we all intend our portfolios to do nothing but go up, and we really hope that they do 15 to 20% a year, but that's not the expectation. The expectation is to hopefully average maybe 8, 9, 10% a year.
Well, if you're
on
realistic.
average. That's an average. Some years it'll be higher, some years it'll be lower. Some weeks and things. And it's interesting, the mindset, the behavioral finance side of this. I was speaking with somebody over the weekend, and one of the biggest issues that a financial planner deals with isn't the financial side of the house. It's the psychological side of the house, and helping people work through themselves and the ability. We saw people who, when the market went down earlier in the year, and we had a high in late January, and then it dropped quite a bit in February, March. Well, they were freaked out. They didn't want to sell anything then because it had dropped. And then when it comes back, and they say, well, when it gets back, we'll take some cream off the top. Even though they were a lot higher than they thought they were going to be at the time. Now they don't want to sell because the market's back moving up
a little bit. Yeah,
it's like, you don't want to sell when it's down. You don't, even though you're a lot higher than you still expected to be.
Yeah, I was up 23% higher than I thought I would be. Now I'm only up 17% higher than I thought I would be. So I'm going to wait till I get back to the 23% level.
Well, now that I'm back up 24%, well, why would I sell now? It's a matter of, and it's in all of us. We all like the idea to think we're going to make more money. And if you're 25, 30, if you've got 20 years left to run, for the portfolio, this probably doesn't matter in any way, shape, or form. You're just going to keep funding it through your payroll deduction. You're going to keep funding your Roth IRAs, hopefully. You're just going to keep funding, buy early, buy often, buy high, buy low. It doesn't matter because you've got 20 years left. and you've got the time horizon. But when you're getting closer to the time period where you're going to need the money, when you get closer to or are in the retirement sector, you just don't want to see huge drops. You really love seeing the very large gains, but you hate the drops. Now remember also, though, you may only have a third of your money in the portfolio, in the long-term growth area, the more volatile areas. But also those volatile areas tend to give you the higher returns. At least that's the goal, right? But you have to accept that volatility. But volatility goes both ways. It can go up. Let's take advantage of that. And it can go down. Let's protect against that by having a long enough time horizon that we don't need to sell when it's down.
Yeah, and that's the other half of this too, which is when it's down, you have to have the emotional fortitude to say, this is a great opportunity. I'm going to take some of this cash and I'm going to go put it in to get myself back to where I need to be.
Yeah, the idea of value averaging is to, first and foremost, have a plan. Because you can't value average if you don't have a plan, because you can't value average if you don't know where you were expected to be. You have to have an expectation, and you have to be exceeding the expectation or severely. You have to have a goal, a plan, a strategy, and a mindset that says, this is what I expect, and here's what I'm going to do when something other than the expectation occurs.
And it happens all the time.